Today I thought I'd talk about the spiritual ego that can be created on this path. And it's just to say that the ego can show up in more and more subtle ways that will make you perceive it to not be there, but actually it is. And it does that by making you view things in a way that's still in this belief that there's a me and a you and a subject and an object, and that having a peaceful background or a peaceful persona can make you feel like perhaps you're there, right? That you awakened or whatever it is that you want to say. But it's just an ever increasing subtle way that the ego's showing up. When you recognize that there is no thing, so there's nothing, so that there was never a body to begin with, there was never this personality, there was never this thing having this experience and touching tables and lamps and chairs or whatever it is. There was nothing here at all. There's never ever been anything here. When you realize that, or you be that, you are that, you see that, there is nothing that you have to do or be or act or say. You just are. And in that beingness, in that knowingness, personality and persona drop away. There wasn't anything here to begin with. You really can see that it was all a facade. And so knowing that as the experience of awakening, oneness, whatever you want to call it, if you're finding yourself rationalizing using spiritual lingo and terms, like, for example, let's say you're in a situation and you see somebody have what you want, let's say, or you wanted. I'm not saying you may have want it now, but let's say there was this thing that you wanted when you were 20 years old. And since being 20, you've started the path and you recognize that like nothing outside of you makes you happy or whatever it is. And then you come into contact with somebody that's perhaps living that life that you wanted when you were 20 years old. And it brings up a feeling of discomfort or anxiety that there's something about your present experience that isn't quite right, and that perhaps the 20-year-old version of you had it right by knowing that it wanted to live in London and have a husband and a full-time job in finance, let's say. That isn't me. So let's say it wanted that experience and you feel this anxiety. Now, the rational spiritual person in you perhaps will immediately start to say to yourself, well, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be because this is where I am. If I was meant to be anywhere else, then I would. If I was meant to be having that experience, then I would. If I was still unconscious, then that would be the life I wanted, but I'm conscious, I'm aware, therefore I'm living this life now. You immediately start to rationalize it with using your mind, which is separate and isn't part, or doesn't believe it's part of the whole. And you start to self-soothe yourself through spiritual sort of identity and programming, instead of sitting with the feeling and facing it and allowing it to be there. And so this sort of spiritual persona you've created is all great and it's gotten you so far, but eventually you have to let go of that as well. You can't do this while still believing that you're a separate person to everyone else and still blaming and seeing fault in the world. You are everything. There never was any separation. In fact, none of this ever existed in the first place. This is all just a dream and an illusion. It's not even that. Even that is to say something that it isn't. And your spiritual identity and persona is so valid. It's gotten you to this point, and you've let go of so much stuff, and you're feeling so much more peaceful, and you're not being tested so much. But there comes a point where it's still going to keep you separate, and it's still going to keep you thinking that there's still more work to do, there's still further layers to unpeel and all that kind of stuff, when actually the simplest thing that you can do is sit with the feeling and feel it. Feel the sensation, no labels, no words, no description, no story, no characters, just the sensation. You've gone into a situation and you're seeing somebody live the life that you wanted when you were unconscious, and you thought your happiness existed in the world, and you thought that if you achieved a certain level of success, then you would be fulfilled, then you would feel the everlasting peace that you're hoping for. And you come into contact with that person and it frightens you, it brings up anxiety in you, or whatever it is. Be so aware of the rationalization of the spiritual mind to come in and make you feel better by rationalizing the situation. You're not meant to be in that situation. You're awakening. You're on the path to awareness. You have to live this certain life in this certain way. If you were living the life in London with the husband and the full-time job, you wouldn't be where you are, and blah, 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 blah. It's all an illusion anyway. Your happiness isn't outside yourself. All of these things are just amazing little snippets of spiritual ego and spiritual identity, and that's another thing to let go of. And honestly, the simplest way is to inquire into your experience, just to consistently inquire into the feelings that you're having, to forget the mind chatter, to forget the words, and just feel and bring that feeling so close to you that you see the nothingness of it, because it's in the resistance and the pushing it away that gives it strength and gives it power and gives it this feeling that it's bad or whatever it is. And we're not doing that anymore. It's 2023. We're not doing this. It's the end of 2023. We're not doing this anymore. We're seeing the truth. We're seeing the truth. And we're going to live in that truth. We're going to know it, not just know it, but know it. And it is all just working out. And that's not me, that's not me rationalizing. That's me in full knowingness that it's all working out. Maybe you've got this.